Have you ever walked into a room and felt invisible? You enter, quietly, politely, and somehow it's like you're not even there. People keep talking. No one really notices. You stand to the side, maybe offer a smile, wait for the right moment to speak, to join, but nothing. And then someone else walks in, and it's completely different. They don't speak, they don't smile, they barely make eye contact. And yet, the room shifts. Conversations pause. Heads turn. People feel them before they even say a word. Have you ever wondered why? Why do some people seem to command attention without effort, while others, maybe you, go unseen, unheard, despite trying to be kind, polite, interesting? It's not about looks. It's not about status. It's not about being loud or charismatic. It's something deeper. Something older, a kind of unspoken power that doesn't shout, but dominates. This isn't a mystery. It's something you can learn, something you can cultivate. And the key to it might come from a surprising place, the mind of Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche, the philosopher of power, of will, of overcoming, was obsessed with the question of presence, with how strength is expressed, not in noise or performance, but in silence, in stillness, in being. In this video, we're going to explore a hidden lesson from Nietzsche, a lesson about how to transform your presence, how to become the kind of person who walks into a room and shifts the energy without saying a single word. And this isn't abstract theory. This is practical. This is something you can use in a meeting, a date, a family dinner, a classroom, a negotiation, even in your everyday walk down the street. Because here's the truth. The way you hold yourself, the way you breathe, the way you listen can say more than 1,000 clever sentences. It can create impact, tension, mystery, respect without ever opening your mouth. And if you've ever felt ignored, overlooked, underestimated, maybe it's not because you lack value. Maybe it's because no one ever taught you how to embody value in silence. Nietzsche won't give you social tricks. He'll give you something more powerful, a transformation of your inner posture, a philosophy of presence, a strength that doesn't beg, doesn't explain, doesn't perform, because it doesn't need to. Let's begin. Nietzsche's will to power is one of his most misunderstood ideas. It's often reduced to brute domination, like some kind of Darwinian fight to be top of the hierarchy. But that's not it. The will to power isn't the will to control others. It's the will to grow, to expand, to become. It's the force in you that wants to overcome your limits, not to destroy, but to transcend. Think of a tree that pushes through the soil, stretches toward the sun, and grows taller every day. That's will to power. Now imagine two kinds of people. One constantly seeks approval, validation, applause. The other doesn't need anyone to tell them they're valuable. They carry themselves with quiet confidence. Nietzsche would say the second person is expressing a true will to power because they're not trying to fill a void. They're living from their own inner abundance. Here's a simple example. You're at a party. Someone bumps into you and spills a drink on your shirt. They're loud, maybe even rude. The weak person immediately lashes out. Watch it. What's wrong with you? They want to win the moment. They want to feel superior because they feel threatened. But the strong person, maybe they just look the other in the eye and smile slightly. Maybe they say nothing. Maybe they walk away with dignity. Their calmness is unnerving because it reveals power, not weakness. That's Nietzschean strength. One of Nietzsche's most powerful concepts is ressentiment. Not just resentment, but a deeper, more toxic way of being. You've met people like this, people who seem nice, but are constantly bitter. They criticize those who succeed. They downplay beauty, talent, strength. They say, he only got the job because he's arrogant, or she's too confident, it's fake, or rich people are all corrupt. They don't rise, so they bring others down. Nietzsche saw this as a sickness, a moral poison, a way of hiding weakness by disguising it as virtue. He believed that whole systems of morality had been built around this lie, celebrating humility, meekness, obedience, not because they're noble, but because the weak needed to feel superior without actually becoming stronger. And this is key. If you need others to shrink in order to feel tall, you are not strong. You are resentful. True strength, the kind that dominates without speaking, doesn't resent, it doesn't hate success, beauty, power. It radiates those things without apology. Let's say you walk into a meeting and someone else is clearly impressive. They speak with clarity. They own the room. What do you feel? Envy? Insecurity? Or do you feel inspired, pulled upward, wanting to grow? Nietzsche would say, that response tells you everything about your level of power. The resentful shrink from greatness. The powerful admire it or surpass it. Now we come to one of Nietzsche's most famous ideas, the Übermensch, often translated as the Overman or Superman. This isn't a comic book hero, it's an ideal, a future human, someone who has overcome the pettiness of resentment, the herd mentality, the need for approval, someone who has forged their own values and walks through life with sovereign energy. Nietzsche doesn't give us a checklist to become an Übermensch, but he gives us a feeling, a posture. The Übermensch doesn't shout, he doesn't complain, he doesn't gossip or demand sympathy, he simply is, fully. You've probably met someone like that, or at least felt their presence. They don't dominate the room with force. They do it with being, with silence, with gravity, like a mountain in the middle of a plain. Nietzsche would say, become the kind of person who doesn't need to talk to be heard. Let's bring this down to earth. In a job interview, most people talk too much, trying to impress. But the strongest candidates speak slowly, clearly, confidently, and then they stop. They don't rush to fill the silence. They let their words breathe. In dating, insecurity leads to oversharing, nervous laughter, constant messaging. Silent confidence looks like asking a question, then really listening, holding eye contact, smiling slowly, letting the other person lean in. In conflict, weakness argues. Power holds silence. The person who can remain calm while others lose control often ends up in control. On social media, the ones who post constantly, trying to be seen, often reveal their hunger. The ones who post rarely, but always with impact, seem more powerful. Even just walking down the street. Notice your posture. Are you shrinking, hiding, or walking with relaxed presence, head up, eyes open, breathing deeply? Nietzsche would say, your very gait reveals your soul. We've only just scratched the surface, but if you take just one thing from this part, let it be this. You don't need to perform to be powerful. You need to become solid in yourself. That's what Nietzsche teaches. Next, we'll explore exactly how to cultivate that kind of presence, how to embody Nietzschean power in your everyday life, step by step. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a room where someone walks in and without saying a word, they completely change the atmosphere? You don't know why. They're not particularly loud. They're not even trying. But somehow, all eyes go to them. They have a kind of gravity, a silent intensity. That's power. And Nietzsche would say, that's the power of silence. We live in a world addicted to noise. People talk constantly. On phones, on screens, in meetings, in social situations, they fill every second with sound. Why? Because silence is uncomfortable, and Nietzsche understood exactly why. Silence exposes us. When you're silent, you're not just hiding, you're revealing. Your posture speaks. Your eyes speak. Your energy speaks. And if you're empty inside, it shows. But if you've done the work, if you've become strong inside, silence is your ally. It does the work for you. Let's get practical. Think of an average conversation. There's a moment of silence, and someone rushes to fill it. So, yeah. Or, anyway, did you hear about anything to avoid the awkwardness? That's because most people associate silence with discomfort, with rejection, with vulnerability. But the truly powerful person does not flinch in silence. In fact, they use it. Nietzsche would say that silence is the ultimate test of strength. Can you remain silent when someone challenges you and not rush to defend yourself? Can you hold your center while the world around you demands a reaction? Let's say you're in a conversation and someone says something passive-aggressive. Most people would immediately respond, explain themselves, correct the record. But the person who simply looks them in the eye and says nothing wins. Why? Because silence communicates confidence. It says, I don't owe you a reaction. I don't need your approval. I am grounded in myself. That is Nietzschean power. Let's go to the animal world for a moment. In a pack of wolves, the alpha rarely growls. It rarely shows teeth. It doesn't need to. Its authority is in its presence, not in its noise. It's the insecure, lower-ranking wolves who make noise, who bark, who try to look big. Same with humans. Watch a truly powerful leader in a boardroom, a courtroom, or a battlefield. They don't need to dominate every second. They speak when it matters, and when they don't speak, their silence is louder than words. Nietzsche would call this self-overcoming, the ability to restrain the ego, to not seek constant validation. Because what is noise, really? It's often a cry, see me, approve of me, don't ignore me. But when you know who you are, when you've built real strength, you don't need to cry out. You speak less, and you are heard more. Let's return to daily life. What does this look like in practice? During an argument, someone yells at you, insults you, throws accusations. Most people fire back, but the powerful person pauses, looks at them, and lets silence do the work. That pause, that moment of non-reaction, it says everything. At a job interview, most candidates rush their answers. The confident one takes a second, thinks, then replies slowly. That beat of silence shows they're not desperate. They're deliberate. In a date or social setting, most people feel they have to be constantly entertaining. But the most attractive presence is calm, composed, mysterious. Saying less often makes others want more. When receiving criticism, the insecure defend themselves. The strong listen, nod, and say little. That composure shows maturity and unnerves critics, even in writing or texting. Notice how the most impactful messages are short. Think of powerful quotes. Think of a one-word reply. It's confident. It leaves space. It forces attention. In all these cases, silence isn't emptiness. It's a statement. Nietzsche believed that the most powerful force in a person is what they withhold. Modern society teaches you to express everything, to speak your truth, to be transparent, open, visible. But Nietzsche would say, no, become a fortress, a mystery, a sovereign being. He admired the ancient Greeks, especially the Stoics, who believed that strength is measured not by expression, but by containment. And so, he teaches us, not everything must be said, not every opinion must be shared, not every feeling must be exposed. Because every time you don't speak, when you could, you add to your power, You become heavier, like a planet. Here's something to try. Go a whole day speaking as little as possible. Don't be rude, just intentional. Speak when necessary, when it's worth it. But otherwise, just be. Watch what happens. People will lean in. They'll pay more attention. And you'll start to notice how much of your usual talking comes from insecurity, not need. Silence is uncomfortable at first, but over time it becomes your natural state, and that's when the transformation begins. Because once you're no longer afraid of silence, you're no longer afraid of yourself. And that, Nietzsche would say, is the beginning of true strength. Next up, how to train your body and your mind to radiate Nietzschean presence, even without speaking. Imagine this. You enter a room. You don't say a word, but immediately people notice you. There's a certain energy around you, a presence that commands respect, or at least curiosity. How is this possible? How can you outsmart or influence others without uttering a single word? Nietzsche would say, it's all in the body. Because humans communicate on many levels, only a fraction is verbal. In fact, research today shows that over 70% of communication is nonverbal. Your posture, your gaze, your breathing, all speak volumes. Think about a time you saw someone walk with confidence. Maybe a manager striding through an office, a teacher entering a classroom, or even a child who suddenly stands taller when praised. What do? They straighten their back. They square their shoulders. Their head is held high. Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch, the Overman or Superman, is not just a philosophical ideal, but a physical reality. A person who embodies strength in every fiber of their being. Your posture is your first language to the world. It says, I am here. I am worthy. I belong. When you slump, look down, or fold your arms tightly, you send the opposite message: insecurity, submission, or fear. Have you noticed how a single look can silence a room? Nietzsche loved the idea of the penetrating gaze, a look that cuts through pretenses, that reveals the truth without saying a word. In daily life, this is the eye contact. But it's more than just looking. It's about intention. A weak gaze looks away quickly, avoids connection. A confident gaze holds steady, invites connection, but does not submit. Think about a negotiation. Someone tries to rattle you with a stare down. Do you flinch, or do you hold your gaze, calm and unwavering? The latter shows dominance. Nietzsche understood this power. The eyes are the windows to the soul, but also the tools of command. Breathing is often overlooked, yet it profoundly shapes your presence. When you're anxious, breathing becomes shallow and rapid. Your body tightens. But when you control your breath, you signal calm and strength. Try this right now. Take a deep breath in for 4 seconds. Hold it for 4 seconds. Exhale slowly for 6 seconds. Feel how your body relaxes? This is not just a trick. It changes your brain chemistry. It lowers cortisol, your stress hormone, and releases dopamine, your confidence chemical. Nietzsche's philosophy celebrates self-mastery, and mastering your breath is a foundational practice of that. The way you move matters. Fast, jerky movements signal nervousness. Slow, deliberate movements communicate control. Notice how great speakers use their hands. Not too much, but enough to emphasize. And when you enter a room, moving calmly but with purpose, tells everyone, I belong here. Science backs what Nietzsche intuited. Studies on power poses show that standing in expansive postures, chest out, arms open, increases testosterone and decreases cortisol. It literally makes you feel more powerful. Similarly, mirror neurons explain why confident body language makes others perceive you as competent and trustworthy. Nietzsche's idea of self-overcoming can be seen today as training your mind and body to project strength, even when you don't feel it inside yet. By practicing presence, you actually reshape your brain. Here's how to start. Posture check. Every hour, remind yourself to sit or stand tall. Imagine a string pulling your head up to the sky. Gaze training. Practice steady eye contact in conversations. Start with strangers, like cashiers or baristas. Breath control. Before stressful events, use the breathing exercise described above. Movement awareness. Slow down your movements. Walk with intention. Silent observation. Spend 5 minutes daily observing people's body language. Notice who commands attention and why. When your body and mind align, you become a silent force, unpredictable and magnetic. People sense it even before you speak. Nietzsche believed that true power was not about domination through words or violence, but the mastery of self and presence. Your body can become your greatest weapon and shield. You don't need to argue, explain, or convince. You just are. And when you are, that's how you outsmart anyone. Without saying a single word, now that you understand the power of silence and the strength of presence, it's time to bring it all together. Because knowing is one thing, doing is another. Nietzsche didn't just philosophize about power, he lived it, and you can too. Nietzsche's concept of the will to power isn't about controlling others through force or manipulation. It's about mastering yourself, your impulses, your fears, your ego. When you wield silence and presence as tools, you are expressing your will to power in the most refined way. This is not domination over others, but over your own inner chaos. Every time you choose to not respond to provocation, every time you stand tall in silence, you reinforce that will. Daily practices to cultivate silent power. Morning stillness. Start your day with 5 minutes of silent presence. Sit quietly, focus on your breath, and set the intention to speak only when necessary. Mindful listening. In conversations, practice listening fully before responding. Count to 3 silently before you speak. This builds patience and deepens your understanding. Pause before reacting. When triggered, take a breath and hold your silence for a moment. This moment is your power. Intentional speaking. Speak only when you have something meaningful to say. Let your words carry weight. Physical presence. Use posture and breathing exercises regularly. Imagine you are becoming a pillar of strength, unmoved by external noise. Handling conflict like Nietzsche. Conflict is inevitable. Most react impulsively, with anger, defensiveness, or over-explanation. You do the opposite. Stay silent. Hold your gaze steady. Maintain calm breathing and posture. This disarms aggressors. It forces respect. Nietzsche saw conflict as a test of strength, not to be avoided, but mastered. The paradox of silence. Strength in vulnerability. Here's a truth Nietzsche also hinted at. True power includes vulnerability. Silence exposes you. It reveals your depths. But by embracing that vulnerability, you transform it into strength. You become a person who doesn't fear being misunderstood or ignored because your worth is not tied to others' approval. Outwitting without words, the ultimate victory. Remember the question, how to outsmart anyone without saying a word. The answer is no secret trick or manipulation. It's the lifelong cultivation of silence as a shield and sword, presence as an unspoken command, the will to power as mastery of self. When you live this way, your influence grows quietly but irresistibly. Others may talk loudly, but you move mountains in silence. Nietzsche's Übermensch is not a mythological figure far removed from us. It is the ideal of a human who has mastered their inner world and therefore commands the outer world with silent power. You can be that person. Start today. Choose silence. Cultivate presence. Master yourself. And watch how the world responds without you having to say a single word.